Alright, so here we go. Today I'm talking all about the brand new 50mm 1.2 G Master from Sony. Yesterday my mate Ethan had a wedding and I went along and second shot it for him, which was a nice change. You may notice I have it mounted on the Sony A1, which has been a really nice camera to use. All day I had the 50 1.2 on the A1 and I had the 35mm 1.4, the new G Master one, on the A9 Mark II. And I shot a whole bunch of photos. I'm going to show you guys a few, and I'm going to put some download links in the description so you can download raw files. Now the photos you're seeing were all edited with my preset pack, which is pack 2, and it's the CTM3 preset. If you want to see those, there's a link in the description. But if you want to download the raw files and have a play with them, see how they look straight out of the camera, you can go into the description. There'll be another link there where you can download them and check them out for yourself. I'm also going to be doing the same video for the 35mm after this, so you guys can see those photos and download them also. Before we get into this, I just want to show you guys something really cool. So when I was using the A1, it's the first time I used it yesterday. I mean, I've had it for a few days, but you know, it's the first time I used it in a real world situation. So I just wanted to show you guys the first thing that I picked up on, and that was the shutter sound. So the A9 Mark II is already quite quiet. For a mechanical shutter, it's pretty quiet, and if I hold it to the same distance here, this is what the A9 Mark II sounds like, and this is what the A1 sounds like. That's crazy. It's so quiet. I don't even feel like you need electronic shutter on this camera to have the silence. It just doesn't really matter. That's mind-blowing. So just something for you guys to see there. Now there's about 7 or 8 different lenses, and I did manage to go ahead and compare a lot of them. So I've taken a few wide open photos and a couple of stop down ones with each of them. I'll put a list of them up here so you can see the ones I did use. I doubt it's all of them, but they're the ones I could get my hands on. So I still have these 3 here. The others I unfortunately had to send back to Auckland Camera Centre. So thanks a lot for those guys, always lending me stuff out. They're really helpful with making these reviews for you guys. If you're in Auckland or in New Zealand, go and visit their store. They have a lot of knowledge and a lot of equipment to check out. So here I have 3 of them. This is my 55mm 1.8, which I've had for forever. Then I have the 50mm 1.4 Zeiss and the new 50mm G Master. The first thing you'll notice is that these two, 1.4 and the 1.2, are basically the same size. They feel very similar in weight. I haven't even looked at the specs because I just want to know, you know, in a real world situation, how do they feel? But after this video, I'll go and check it out, and I'll put it up here as well so you can see the difference. But I'm gonna say they're very similar in weight. Now all 3 of these lenses are really fantastic. I still really like the 55mm 1.8, and I don't think I'm gonna be buying the 50mm G Master, just because I don't really feel like I need it. You know, if you were to look at the overall picture and all you were worried about was image quality, focus, you know, the actual lens quality, this 50mm G Master is best by quite a long shot. Build quality on the 51.2 is just fantastic. No real surprises there. There's not a lot to talk about. It's the same as any other G Master lens. It does feel a little bit tighter on the aperture ring, which is nice to see. The other lenses, maybe it's because it is brand new, but some of the other ones, straight out of the box even, the aperture ring feels not loose, but not quite as tight as this one. So this one will be much harder to accidentally change it if you are using the aperture ring. Otherwise, you can always put it in auto and just use the camera dials. It does have 2 custom buttons on the lens, which you can use. So if you're in portrait orientation, that works fine as well. It of course has the 11 aperture blade design from the G Master series, and it is fully weather sealed. Talking about focusing with this lens, it's amazing. It's really fast, and it's completely silent. You can't pick up anything on video. It works really fantastically. And the other thing I noticed was manual focus. Even though it is a fly-by-wire lens, manual focus is quite easy on this one. You can pull it. It doesn't, you know, it's not jumping around, kind of like the 55mm is a little bit temperamental, but the 50, this one works really well with manual focusing also. The last thing I'm going to say on focus is a lot of people ask me about focus breathing. It seemed like because of the amount of questions I was getting, it was going to be an issue with this lens. And it's not, you know, you can see a bit of focus breathing, but in my opinion, it's not really a deal breaker. It works fine. For me personally, it's not really an issue. So with all that boring stuff out of the way, let's talk about image quality. And honestly, I can say I don't think I've seen a lens perform this well. maybe with the odd exception of like some of the, I think they were called Otis Zeiss lenses, the manual focus ones that were really expensive. Even at f1.2, all around the entire frame, it just is so sharp and renders skin really well. Really good contrast, very little chromatic aberration, if anything at all. Vignetting isn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it would be. It's a lot less vignetting than the 35 1.2 Sigma lens, which was pretty heavy, and I kind of expected this to be about the same. But yeah, it's definitely better controlled than the Sigma 35 1.2. If you've used that, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, honestly, it's basically perfect in terms of image quality. The only reason I'm saying basically is because I don't want to say it's perfect, because, you know, that just doesn't seem to be a thing. Before I get on with this, I want to touch on one thing that I constantly get messages about after I review a lens. People buy a lens like the 35 or whatever, and they seem to start shaking it around and message me asking if my lens makes a noise. Any lens like this is going to make noise if you have it off the camera and you're shaking it around. It's probably just not something you should be doing. But yeah, most lenses make noise when you take them off the camera, or even some on camera, and you kind of, you know, tipping it around. It's just, there's a lot of moving parts in there, and it just is what it is. Now, at the start of the video, though, you would have heard me say I'm not going to buy one, and I'm going to stick with my 55mm 1.8, and I'm sticking to that for now anyway. You know, maybe something will change next summer if I book heaps and heaps of weddings. Next summer is looking pretty good. But, you know, the 55mm has just been fine, and there's not really been an issue where I've said, man, I really wish I could have another 55mm because I'm not happy with this or that. This lens has performed amazingly, and I've had it for so long. It's so cheap. Well, it's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than the G Master, and it's, you know, it's a pretty reasonably priced lens. We'll put it in that category. It's obviously not weather sealed like these ones, but yeah, I just can't see any reason why I personally would upgrade to the 50mm 1.2 other than just wanting to have the best of the best. So I had a list here on my phone when I was comparing all of the 50mm lenses. If you don't want to download the raw files for yourself, you're just going to have to take my opinion for it. But if you want to know for yourself, download the raw files in the description and have a play with them, and you can see for yourself. I made a list of the best overall categories, so that takes into account price, size, image quality, focusing performance, and just everything you would consider when buying a lens. In first place, it really has to be the 51.2, just because of the image quality. Like I said, it's basically perfect. It is a lot more expensive than the others, but even taking that into account, if you don't have a 50 and you're looking at getting one and you can afford this one, I would definitely buy the 51.2. Now, after that, I had the 55mm 1.8 here, which you guys know I'm a fan of. I've bought it twice now, and I've had this one for ages, and it's just such a fantastic lens. The 51.4 I had after that, mostly because, you know, in most cases, it's very slightly better in terms of image quality than the 55mm. But not enough that you would take the extra cost and the size over the 55. So if it was my opinion, it would be 50mm 1.2, 55mm 1.8, and the 50mm 1.4. If you didn't want to buy any of these ones, the next on the list would be the 50mm 1.4 Art Series lens from Sigma. It's a good lens. It's optically pretty decent. Focusing is a bit noisy and a little bit slow compared to some of these other ones. But overall, it's a good lens, and it's quite cheap for what it is, I guess. After that would be the 50mm 1.8 FE. I really considered putting the 50mm 1.8 FE above the Sigma Art just because of the price and the size. And it is optically actually pretty decent for the kind of lens and the price that it is. So nothing against the 50mm 1.8, also really great option if you're on a budget. And then last but not least, I would have the 50mm Samyang 1.4, which I don't want to trash it. You know, it's a fine lens. It's just optically not very good compared to the rest of them. And focusing it sounds like R2-D2 dying or something. It has a really weird sound to it. And the 50mm 2.8 macro, I mean, you know, we'll just move on from that one. So there you go, guys. You've heard it from me. The 50mm 1.2 is just a monster, and I really love it. I'm not going to buy it because I like my 55mm and I don't want to spend the money. But like I said, that comes down to you guys. And if you want the best of the best, get the 50mm 1.2. And if you want just a really solid option that's small and, you know, cost effective, the 55mm 1.8 is still my pick overall. Thanks for watching, guys. The next video coming out is going to be the 35mm 1.4 review, and then I'm going to do an epic video on the Sony A1, which is just mind-blowing. I was talking to Ethan last night at the wedding, and we were discussing, you know, how we've upgraded cameras over the years with Sony, and it seems like they'll bring something out like the A7R IV or the A9 Mark II or whatever, any camera that comes out, A7S III, and you know, you're using it and you think to yourself, I don't see how it could get any better than that. This camera would do me for 5 years. Why would I need to upgrade to anything else? And then Sony just dropped this bomb like the A1. I mean, it's way too expensive. I'm definitely not going to buy one because I can't afford it. But it's honestly just such an amazing camera. But we'll talk about that in another video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.